All right, are you planning a solo day to the Disneyland Resort and you want to know some of the best tips? Maybe because you're like, I've never gone to a theme park alone, or maybe you're somebody who does stuff alone all the time and you just want to know, is there a way to benefit from being the only person in your party? Well, I'm here today to give you 10 definitely gotta hear tips for visiting Disneyland Resort all by yourself. I do this frequently. It is a lot of fun, especially if people just like can't go with you and you just really need a day at the park. Or maybe I've gone to Walt Disney World and done the same thing where like I was there on vacation. I was there traveling. It was me. It was either go by myself or no one. All right, so the first tip, I'm gonna get right into it, is what time should you get here? A lot of folks say, you should get here right in the morning, but if you're traveling by yourself, maybe you're like, I don't know, I'm not really a morning person, or you plan on staying late and you're like, I don't know what to do. I would say pick a time. Do you want to stay all day and all night? Because that's okay too, but whatever you decide, I would download the Disneyland app. That is a huge tip so you can navigate around and also find where things are. And you can also head over here right near the Archway Inn and pick up a map in your choice of language. Now, once you get into the park, one of the things that I highly recommend is purchasing Lightning Lane Multipass, especially if you're going solo. And there's a big reason for this. I know a lot of folks might be reluctant to purchase it, thinking like, well, hey, aren't there other methods that I can use to skip the lines? But here's why you might want to think about it if you don't want to wait in many of the popular attraction queues, just standing around for maybe 50 minutes, an hour longer, depending on the attraction, then this might be something you want to look into. With Lightning Lane Multipass, you're not going to skip all of the line. You're going to skip the bulk of it, and you have to pre-book your Lightning Lane, so you can only hold one at a time. But I have an entire tutorial about how to use Lightning Lane Multipass, so I definitely am going to link that in the description below. But I do also want to give you some tips on which attractions Lightning Lane Multipass works with. So here is the list. So if you didn't purchase it already, you can either purchase Lightning Lane Multipass with your ticket, or you can add it on later by going to your ticket in the Disneyland app, and then there's usually an option to upgrade your ticket, or once you get into the park, you can open the Disneyland app and purchase there. Just know if you purchase in advance, you usually can save, maybe a few bucks. If you're like, David, I already purchased a ticket, I'd rather spend that extra money on snacks and merchandise. Well, even if you get Lightning Lane Multipass or not, which is totally fine with me, I'm gonna share some more tips that you can use using the single rider line to skip the bulk of the line as well, in many instances. A handful of rides and attractions at Disneyland Park and Disney California Adventure Park have their own separate single rider line. And you may have heard about this. It's actually a line designated for people who are willing to ride by themselves. And since you're already going by yourself, you can ride by yourself in this instance. So for example, I'm at Space Mountain right now, and there is a separate single rider queue that's designated here. You can line up as you need if they're offering it, because if single rider line either fills up or it's just unneeded for that day, they will stop allowing people inside. You can see over here that the single rider line is kind of foolish, but it's still gonna probably be a lot shorter than the regular line. Access the Space Mountain one, I'm just gonna show you where we go. We walk all the way around this corner. Funny enough, this is actually by the rides exit versus the rides entrance, where a lot of the single rider lines are. As you can see, everybody gets a single rider line ticket as they go into the queue. Okay, so now you might be wondering, David, what is a single rider line really about? Like, why do they offer it? Like, what is the benefit to Disneyland? And that's a really good question. So the benefit to Disneyland is that when you see an attraction that maybe has an available seat, because let's say that there are 4 seats in a row, but it's a party of 3, or there's a party of 5 and it leaves one seat open, the fastest way to get people through the line is actually by allowing that single rider to fill in that available seat. It gets more people onto the attraction and also gets a single rider on much faster if they're willing to ride by themselves, which is, even if you think it's a single rider line, it would just be for single riders. It's for anybody willing to ride single riders. So sometimes you will see groups of 2 or 3 use the queue in order to cut the line. But let me show you what other attractions use single rider and a little bit more about the process for how it works. So the Matterhorn bobsleds also offers a single rider line, which you can see the sign right here. And this is actually also toward the exit of the attraction. So sometimes they are located there and sometimes they're near the entrance. Just look for these signs and then you can head right in. Now, there are a few more attractions in Disneyland that we can use single rider on, including in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Now, at the entrance of the Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run attraction in Galaxy's Edge, you'll actually see 3 different options of standby, lightning lane, and then single rider line. So all you have to do is enter through the single rider line part, and the cast member will allow you inside the single rider line queue. But there is something to know about the single rider line for this attraction in particular. There are different positions that you can typically take, which is a pilot of the Millennium Falcon, a gunner, or an engineer, and often the engineer is the least favorable for those who want a little bit of thrill to the ride, because all it lets you do is basically push buttons. And so a lot of folks will have priority over you since you're the single rider and you're kind of heading in later, and you might get gunner at best. You can always ask politely if somebody's willing to trade you for the pilot. Maybe they don't want to interact that much, but just a heads up about that. However, beginning May 2026, the Mandalorian and Grogu overlay of the Millennium Falcon will kick in. It should be a permanent thing, and you will be able to interact with Grogu as the engineer, so maybe that will be a little bit more in demand. Now, I'm still waiting for the day that Rise of the Resistance gets single rider. It is one of the most popular attractions in the park, and sometimes the one at Walt Disney World has it. It offers it, so I don't see why eventually they might not add it here. I don't know what the difference would be, but yeah, we just haven't had single rider at Disneyland yet. So if anything changes with the single rider lineup, I will write about in the description. I also may post or pin a little comment to tell you like, hey, there's been an edit. And Tiana's Bayou Adventure is another attraction that often offers single rider lines. So it's not always offered. It may not always be even listed as something is offered, but if you go toward the entrance, you should see the option. And looking behind me is where the standby entrance typically is, but I'm not seeing a lit up sign for single rider at the moment. I am seeing lightning lane, but the attraction is currently down, so it could be that too. This is where you would typically see it. So you see standby, you see lightning lane. Oh, single rider just popped up. Oh, look what timing we have. But let me give you the full list of single rider attractions that you can experience at Disneyland and Disney California Adventure, because there are a bunch more, including Soarin' and my personal favorite, Radiator Springs Racers, which can save you so much time. Like, the line can seriously be 2 hours long. You wait in that single rider line, and yeah, it can shave off like an hour and a half or more. So like, what's the general rule? Like, how much time are you gonna save with single rider? Honestly, it varies. It varies based on demand. They really don't know how many people are gonna pass through that line where they're gonna be an odd number and a single rider might be needed. So it really is hard to say, but I'll just say on average, I save quite a bit of time with single rider line. Typically it is a fraction of the time and sometimes even faster than lightning lane, but that's kind of why I also do say maybe getting lightning lane multi-pass on top of single rider is a good idea for your visit, because as you saw, not every attraction that's available for lightning lane multi-pass is also available for single rider. And even if more attractions become available in the future, it's probably not going to be nearly as many. And also, single rider is not a guarantee that you're going to save time. Now, an unlisted single rider line is the Indiana Jones Adventure. Again, it's not always offered, but it could be really handy if you just want to skip the bulk of that line. What to do is go to the attraction entrance, and then you'll see this sign for standby, and walk over here and ask if they're offering it. Again, it's not always offered, but just know you may have the option, and it's always worth asking. Something sometimes people say to me is when they come to Alone at the Parks, that they really just kind of want some space where they can just kind of hang by themselves and just kind of get away from the crowd. So like, what's a good place to do that? Well, I'll give you a few. One of my personal favorite spots is actually in Pooh Corner, which is in Bayou Country. It's like kind of this area with the Winnie the Pooh attraction. You might find next to the ride all kinds of spaces where you can just sit and hang out in the shade. There's lots of seating in and around the shop. Now, I do want to tell you, sometimes, especially during the day when the characters are meeting out there, it can get a lot busier than it is right now, but I do like to see that this area has a lot of space to kind of wander around and do what you need. The only negative thing about that side of the park is that it is so far away from everything else. Like you have to really go all the way across, and that's probably why it's kind of empty, because it is so far away. But there are more spots you can discover, like near the Haunted Mansion. If you go around the side here, you often do see a bunch of seating in a bridge up here you can kind of hang out in and kind of get away from the crowd. All right, I wanted to show you one more spot that I think is pretty handy if you're trying to get away from the crowd. That is right across from Matterhorn. You see Edelweiss Snacks. You can walk around this side in the back of the building, as you can see. And over here is a bunch of different seating. And usually this is kind of a nice way to get all the way around and kind of overlook the water, maybe see the monorail go by sometimes. And there's utensils and ketchup and mustard and tons of paper towels, everything that you need to do to like just kind of get away. Plus it's shaded, so huge perk there, but people do know about it. It's not always totally uncrowded, but well, I will say this, sometimes the tables are taken up, but it is a lot less crowded than other areas of the park. Don't find a seat there, you can always try to walk up here. And as you can see, there's kind of a lot of area to stand around, get away from everything. So sometimes I'll just be up here, just like kind of getting away from everything and can tuck away. There's some trees for a little bit of shading, but it's not super intense over here. Also got a water area, and you can see more of that seated area over there as well. Speaking of food, my next tip is definitely mobile order. When you're by yourself, the nice thing is you can kind of decide to eat whatever you want, wherever you want, and it makes things a lot snappier sometimes if you're having trouble being indecisive with somebody else. They want something, you want another thing. So if you can mobile order your food, then you don't have to wait in line for it. You just go pick it up, and all that can be done on the Disneyland app. All you do is open the app, you can hit the plus bottom, the menu at the bottom, and you will see mobile order section. And here's a cool tip. You can actually mobile order your food before you get to the park. So if you are at home and you want to pre-mobile order something for like noon time, because sometimes mobile orders can get a little backed up, especially on busier days, then you can go ahead and do that. You can actually just go ahead, order your food ahead of time, and then you'll have your set time. You just have to remember to go pick up your food. If for some reason you can't make that time, you can do a change time when you see your mobile food order inside the Disneyland app, and it'll give you the option to change the time of your mobile order. So speaking of mobile ordering, you can also, if you just really want to get away, you really want to sit by yourself, just book a restaurant reservation. You can do this 60 days in advance on the Disneyland app. You can search all kinds of restaurants that you want to dine in at both parks and also in downtown Disney and even the Disneyland Hotel. So there's plenty of spots that you can choose. Disneyland Park is famous for its Blue Bayou, which is actually a restaurant inside Pirates of the Caribbean. So maybe that's some place you're willing to dine alone, kind of get away from the crowds and be indoors. It is really handy to book in advance. So remember, 60 days in advance in the Disneyland app if you want to book a restaurant reservation. Another thing that might benefit you is PhotoPass. So if you get Lightning Lane Multipass, you actually comes with something called Disney PhotoPass, which allows anytime a Disney photographer takes your picture inside the park, you can actually download it on the Disneyland app and then post on your socials or share it with friends. So maybe you're like me and you're okay with the selfie, but if you really want to get that like wide shot of you in front of the castle, like with somebody or with a character too, you can use Disney PhotoPass. Now, here's another trick though. Disney photographers will often take your picture with your cell phone, so you can always ask like, hey, can you get a picture with my cell phone? And they're very obliged to do so. So you can always ask that if you don't get PhotoPass, to have the Disney photographers take your picture, and then also ask them to use your camera and see if they'll take your picture that way. One of the things that's never fun is carrying around stuff with you all day long. Well, on Main Street, kind of nestled in the back, is a locker station, and it's actually right behind where the Starbucks is, but it is clearly marked lockers. As we go inside here, you're gonna see tons of lockers where you can rent things, and actually the price isn't that bad. You can get a standard size locker for $7, or you can get a bigger locker, usually starting around like $10. So maybe prices will go up a little bit, but they've stayed the same for quite a while. The only thing I recommend, if you wait too late, sometimes lockers can sell out. I recommend that you should also grab the stuff as you see it, so if you see merchandise that you really want, don't be like, oh, I'm gonna go later in the day, because it could sell out. So maybe that $7 locker will save you time and hassle. The only thing is it's gonna be kind of toward Main Street, toward the entrance of the park, and there's also a couple at the entrances of both Disneyland and Disney California Adventure, and Disney California Adventure also has one on Buena Vista Street for the same pricing. And here you are, you've lasted all day at the Disneyland Resort, and now you're ready to watch some fireworks. So where do I recommend standing for the fireworks if you're traveling by yourself? Because sometimes people like split up the responsibility. Like somebody might go, you know, on a ride and then come back and join their party as they wait a couple of hours for the fireworks to start. You can, of course, always go near the castle. I just recommend, even on less busy days, you might want to line up as soon as they'll let you. Sometimes it's an hour and a half. Usually it's a couple hours in advance, and you can kind of wait out around that area and see where you can get parked. But I think camping out on Main Street is the way to go. You don't even have to camp out. So sometimes there's a nighttime parade like Paint the Night. So you'll see people lining up like 30 minutes, an hour before. Usually it's an hour or more before the parade actually begins. But either way, if you want to watch the fireworks, you can right in the middle of Main Street. And this is what I like to do because I don't like to wait around forever. I'd rather be on rides or trying snacks or shopping for merch or whatever have you. So I like to just kind of be right here, and I actually just roll up like 20 minutes beforehand. And typically what will happen is everybody will like be kind of like hanging around Main Street, maybe sitting even, and you can just kind of pop in, and it is totally fine to do. You're not being rude or anything. I like this spot kind of by Carnation Cafe, and if you look all the way down, you can see the castle, you'll see fireworks. It's such a good vantage point. I can show you what that looks like because fireworks are gonna begin not that long from now. We should start seeing people pour in here. Another tip is if you are seeing the Paint the Night parade, you may be able to watch the parade premiere and then go in the middle of Main Street and watch the fireworks right after. Now, if you really want reserve viewing, let's say you're coming for a parade and you're like, I don't want to wait around that long, but I want a really good spot. I don't have to do too much. There is a reserve viewing for the parade for those who got a special dining package. It's typically right here, right in front of the train station. So it'll only be for the parade itself. With these dining packages, you'll get a special voucher with your meal, and you'll be able to get a reserved viewing spot of the parade. Now, these vary in how much they actually cost, so you will have to search, and also the location. Typically, they're at Plaza Inn, and you have to search in the Disneyland app, Plaza Inn dining package to see what's being offered. It's usually like either the Christmas parade, sometimes the Paint the Night parade. It just depends what's going on. And those are my tips for visiting Disneyland solo. If you have any questions about visiting Disneyland, especially by yourself, leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if it was helpful, hit the like button. It really does help me out and I appreciate it if you do. And also, if you like Disney theme parks, think about hitting the subscribe button and building a community here. We talk about theme parks and other stuff we love. And I'd love to have you on board in the comment section. I'm David Vaughn. Thanks so much for watching and check out these other videos for visiting Disneyland.